I am conducting these interviews for Careers in Aging Week. This is my second one. Welcome everybody to this video. I am conducting this informational interview with Amy Ringering, who is a former student of ours and currently works for the Easter Seals. And I'll be asking her to share a little bit more about her information. So because of this COVID-19 context, I'm interviewing her from my kitchen table to her mobile office located at her home. And you ready to go ahead and get started?
Let's do it.
Okay. So I guess just to start with, why don't you introduce yourself with your title and basically give us an overview of what you do currently.
Okay, well, I work for Easter Seals, Oregon, the Senior Community Service Employment Program, long name. We call it CSEP, and my title is Program Coordinator. I coordinate the program in 5 counties in the Mid-Willamette Valley area. Everything? Anything else you need to know?
So what specifically, how do you specifically work with older adults and what you do?
So the CSEP program is a training to employment program for people that are 55 and older. So in gerontology, they're still babies, right? So they come into my office and they apply to get into the program. They're like, nobody wants to hire me. I'm old. And I'm like, you're a baby. You're young, you know. But anyways, so what we do is we put them in training assignments out in the community at what we call a host agency, which is either a nonprofit or a governmental agency. I've been working on WOO for a while, so hopefully that works out. And they are paid at minimum wage. So that kind of helps them to stabilize in their life. You know, sometimes they're homeless when they come to us or at risk of homelessness. So this helps them to get their housing settled. You know, we help to connect them with local resources if they're not on food stamps or if they're not, you know, connected with other resources in the community. We help them with that. We work with them to develop an individual employment plan to help move them towards their goals or even decide what are their goals, you know, what kind of jobs can they do now? Because sometimes they come to us because they have some kind of a disability. They're no longer able to do what they used to do. And so now they need to know, well, what can I do? So we work with them and we do a whole bunch of assessments. We encourage them to work with other community partners like WorkSource and have a job coach there. Or vocational rehabilitation, to name a couple. And so we come up with those plans and just kind of help to hold them accountable and move them towards those goals.
So do you have like a caseload of people that you're trying to oversee that are off, you know, when we're not dealing with, obviously with COVID-19, but in general, do you have a caseload that you're overseeing through the counties?
We have 60 slots among the 5 counties. So right now we're not fully enrolled because we've lost a couple of people in the last couple of months for various reasons. And we haven't been able to enroll anybody else to take their place because of the current situation.
Right.
But I have an employment specialist who's part-time, unfortunately. And so she does a lot of the more one-on-one stuff, like developing the individual employment plans, meeting with participants, especially if they're in the last year of their time in the program. It is a limited duration program of 4 years. But I do have lots of interaction with the participants. I kind of oversee everything.
Okay. So, well, how did you get interested in working with older adults? Where did that start?
I don't know. I don't really think about it. I just always enjoyed being around older people. Even as a kid, you know, just sit around with older people, listening to their conversations. I related well with them, I guess. My kids would probably say I am one. So, but I don't know. It's just a population that I enjoyed working with. And being around. When I started the human service program at Chemeketa, one of the first classes that I was in, they were talking about populations. So they're saying, hey, what populations do you think you want to work with, and what populations do you absolutely not want to work with? And for me, I absolutely did not want to work with children whom everybody else did want to work with. I'm like, nope,
Right.
I have my kids and they're fine, but I don't need to be around other people's kids. I'm happy to work with older adults who are a little bit calmer.
Yeah.
Maybe it fits
Yeah.
my personality better. I don't know. So
Yeah. So in terms of that was one of my questions was you started at the community college level in the human services program. Can you talk a little bit about what you did there? And I know that you had a lot of practicums that you do as part of that program.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that was a while ago. I started just about 10 years ago. I started there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was a wonderful experience. A lot of hands-on learning, like you mentioned, the practicum. I think I had like 25 credits.
Wow, that's a
Uh,
lot.
that's a lot of hours. I don't remember how many hours that is, but I had
Mm-hmm.
2 different sites,
Mm-hmm.
um, and learned a lot. And we had like counseling theories classes, interviewing methods classes, just tons of stuff. Group dynamics. Oh my gosh, that was the worst class. Take that one past me. So,
So,
but it was pretty great. It was great because we kind of like with Western, you kind of develop like a cohort of people that you're going through the program with, and you get to know people, and it feels like a family, kind of. And it's a tough program. It is university level, so that made it a little bit easier coming to Western because I already had the writing skills and whatnot from Shemekina. So.
yeah, so you were able to make that transition, I think, a lot pretty easily. So from your professor's perspective.
Yeah, and
So,
I tried to inject myself at Western socially because at Shemekina, I was just basically doing what I had to do, and I had small children and whatnot. But when I went to Western, I really wanted to continue having that sense of like a family, of a close group, a cohort. And so I tried to interject myself, I guess. And so when we were developing the gerontology club and the honor society chapter, I tried to really push myself to be a part of that, even though I'm not a very social person.
mhm.
I wanted to continue to be a part of something and develop something. So.
Mhm. So what would you, given that, what would you recommend for current students that are interested in working with older adults that are gerontology majors and minors? What kinds of things would you recommend for them as their students to do to better prepare themselves after they graduate?
Well, I mean, it is hard to find the time to do things,
Mhm.
especially if you're a non-traditional student like I was, and maybe you have children at home, or maybe you have jobs in addition to going to
Mhm.
school and whatnot. But I do think it's a good idea to maybe try to do some volunteering, get to know people in the community, make some connections, do some networking, even
Mhm.
if it's not a lot of time, try to get your foot in the door a little bit. Because what I found is that, I've had 3 different jobs since I graduated, and they've all related somehow and helped me in my current position. So I think everything that you do, you're going to have transferable skills that's going to help you in your next position.
Mhm. So a lot of students, when they graduate, they just think about long-term care, let's say, as an option for employment, or some of the more visible, everyday kinds of organizations. What would be your response to a student that maybe doesn't see those kinds of fits? Because you're doing something Easter Seals is not, people don't automatically think, oh, that's where I'm going to go to work with older adults, right? Or what would you suggest? What would you want to, how would you respond to that in terms of looking at other opportunities?
Yeah, well, I agree with that. Like, you can have a narrow view of what's out there. Um,
Mhm.
like even for myself, when I'm thinking about job searching, I think, oh, case management, program management. but there's just so much out there that you might not even know about. And
Mhm.
this job actually, I didn't really go out looking for this job. It kind of fell into my lap because I was working at WorkSource for a company called ResCare doing job coaching. And
Mhm.
I didn't really like the company that I worked for. It wasn't a nonprofit, it was for profit, and I just didn't agree with their values very much. But I enjoyed working with people, and I've always had a affinity, I guess, for helping connect people with jobs and kind of figuring out what would be a good fit for them. Just
Mhm.
something I just naturally did. And as I was working there, I learned about a position that came open upstairs. And I didn't even know that they were upstairs, to be honest, because like they just weren't really a part of the building. Like they never came down, and I didn't know about it.
Mhm.
So um, I just kind of fell into my lap. I gave them my resume and did a like 20-minute phone interview, I guess you can call it, and was hired because they were
Nice.
separate. But but it's worked out really well, and it's benefited them to have me there because I have those connections at WorkSource, and I already have a lot of the skills that they needed. So
Mhm. Mhm. Do you think that you're working for a nonprofit now? You actually mentioned for-profit earlier in your comment. Is there anything distinct in your mind about working for a nonprofit and advocating for older adults, whether that just in general or also how that might fit with you and what's important to you?
um, I think for different people, like I'm learning for myself and for my best friend and maybe our personality types, that it's really important to have work that's meaningful. Some people, like my significant other, for example, that does not matter at all. Doesn't make any
Mhm.
difference. He was fine working for a telemarketing company, and I'm like, I could never do that, right? So
Mhm.
my work has to be meaningful. I have to feel like I am providing a service that's benefiting the world. And so my values align with nonprofit organizations.
Mhm.
So that's what I enjoy working for. Um, and for students, there is a student loan forgiveness, which, I'm not really thinking I'll be able to take advantage of. But if you work for a nonprofit for what is it, 10 years, then any student loans that you have remaining are forgiven. So that's another
Mhm.
bonus.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm keeping my fingers that that program continues.
Yeah, who
'Cause
knows?
yeah, we really need it, I think, because, obviously you're not going to become a millionaire doing the type of work working for nonprofits or, in education or in social service.
Right.
So, yeah, but I think the thing that you underscore is that it fits with your values and what brings you satisfaction and a feeling of purpose.
Mhm.
And that's important, right? So,
For
is
me,
there, yeah, and I know, I guess the other thing is there any just general advice you could offer to students who might be listening in and are interested in working with older adults or maybe doing something similar to what you're doing or not? What would you say?
well, like I kind of mentioned earlier with networking, it's not
Mhm.
really a natural skill for me, but I think it's important to kind of go outside of your comfort zone and try to make connections with people in the community. Um,
Mhm.
and don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to try things and fail. I mean, like with my first job, I kind of sabotaged myself, but I learned a lot and, I grew from it. And like I also mentioned earlier, every experience that you have, every position is going to give you skills and experiences that are going to help you in another position. So
Mhm.
give yourself some grace, keep moving forward,
Mhm.
and you're going to find a good fit. Don't try to fit with the company. Try to find a company that fits with your values, I would say. Because
Yeah.
my first job, one of the reasons why it didn't go well was because I was very open with my superiors about things and how I was feeling and that didn't work out very well. But with my current position, um, I have female bosses. We have a female CEO now that I get along with really well, and I feel like I can give them my feedback and tell them honestly how I feel about something, and that they will listen and value what I have to say.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great. And when you say networking, when I hear networking, of course, I teach students how to network, but we're talking about, taking the opportunity to meet people, maybe do some informational interviews, go to trainings and conferences. Is that kind of along the lines of what you were thinking?
Yes, so definitely informational interviewing. That's one thing that we assign our participants in the program to do is, go
Mhm.
to an informational interview for every goal, because it might be that you're going to find out maybe this isn't really something I want to do. And so save
Right.
yourself that time and energy and whatnot.
Mhm.
That's a good way to do it. Volunteering is another really good way. Um, just putting yourself out there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. So is there anything else you want to add, Amy, to our conversation that you think might be helpful?
Um, well, I will mention that we have that part-time employment specialist position coming open if anybody's interested in applying. I'm not too terrible of a boss, I don't think so.
Better watch it, you might get inundated.
That would be awesome.
So that would be for someone that would be interested in working in a nonprofit and working with older adults in interfacing with workforce, right?
It's a
And
really good experience. So our last one, the person that is leaving now, is also a graduate of the program, and she has really enjoyed working with us, or so she
Mhm.
says, and
Yes.
has learned a lot. And this job enabled her to get the job that she is moving into now.
Yeah, yeah, right. So that's great. Well, I appreciate your time very much.
Oh,
And I'm
thank
going to go ahead and end the interview. And I wish you all the best in your future. And I
you.
know that you'll stay connected. You better.
Yes, yes, I will.
Okay. I'm
All
going to
right.
go ahead and finish our interview. Thanks again.
You too. Have a good day.
Okay.